Now that you've watched the video over author's purpose, we need to talk about what could the author's purpose of our paired selection be. So a paired selection is two separate stories that are normally about the same topic but not the same genre. But that's not always the case. And the author's purpose doesn't have to always be the same. So we have to keep a very open mind and not just assume that it's always going to be one way or the other. So I have my little reminder sheet right here. It says author's purpose is easy as pie. So I'm going to think about persuade, inform, and entertain. We know that we've talked about the author's purpose could be to describe, but we're going to stick with these three right now. Okay? So I'm looking at the Path to Paper Son. I have the workbook in front of me. And I'm just going to read the first two pages. And I want you to listen as I'm reading these two pages. And I want you to ask yourself, do you hear any persuasive language? Is the author telling us to do something or think a certain way? Okay? Is the author just trying to give us information and teach us something? Or is this a story that is meant to be entertaining? Like that's the only purpose for it is just to entertain us, to make us laugh, to make us smile, something like that. Okay? So I'm on page 20. Most of the Chinese workers who came to the United States in the mid 1800s were men. Half of them were married with wives and sometimes children who had been left behind in China. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 prohibited Chinese laborers from sending for their families to join them in the United States, but merchants and U.S. citizens were allowed to do so. So each time a member of those groups returned to China for a visit, they often reported the birth of a son or two to the immigration authorities when they came back. The claim created immigration slots which could be used to bring another Chinese to America. So ask yourself just in that first paragraph, are we being encouraged to do something, being told we should do something in the future, or are we being told to think a certain way or encouraged to think a certain way? Paragraph 2. In 1906, a major earthquake and fire destroyed much of San Francisco, including the city's Hall of Records. With the city's birth records destroyed, some Chinese saw an opportunity. They claimed that they had been born in San Francisco and that they had a wife and so many sons in China. Because who's going to prove it, right? The records are gone. Paragraph 3. Sometimes the son was truly related, and sometimes the son might be a nephew or another relative. Often the identity was sold to an unrelated person who lived near the father's village or father's Chinese village. When a paper son bought an identity, he also purchased a coaching book or notes that provided both the questions and answers that might be asked during immigration processing. The paper son's job was to memorize the answers. Paragraph 4. Paper son documents were worth thousands of dollars. Families borrowed money to make it possible for a child to make the trip. It often took several years of hard work to repay the debt. Now, look at what we have below paragraph 4. We have this right here that says, "Did you know?" Okay? That's a good idea that we're reading some type of informational text. So let's see what this says. In 1868, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution established that anyone born in the United States is granted U.S. citizenship. In 1898, American-born Chinese Wong Kim Ark won a U.S. Supreme Court case that reaffirmed that law. After he made a trip to China, the U.S. government denied his readmission into the country. He appealed his case and his birthright citizenship was upheld. So when I'm thinking about author's purpose and pie, I really do not hear any persuasive language. I don't feel like the author is trying to get me to do something or think a certain way. And with entertaining, just because I like the story so far does not mean that it's for entertaining purposes, okay? I feel like I'm reading a history book. I feel like the author is trying to teach me something that happened in history, okay? So think about that. The reason we're covering author's purpose is because of this right here. So on your assignment list, you will see vocabulary and check for understanding. So this is the check for understanding page. If you decide to work in your workbook so you can write on your paper and then take a picture of it and send it to me, that's fine. Okay? One thing that I'm showing you an example of here is how to recycle the question, and I've mentioned that in another video. Okay, so remember, recycle the question means to take your question, reword it, and make it a part of your answer. This is for two reasons. One, so we can write in a complete sentence, and then two, so we can make sure that we fully answer the question, okay, and we don't leave out anything that is very important. Question number 2. What do you think the author's purpose was for writing The Path to Paper Son? What do you think the author's purpose was for writing Louis Sher Kim, Paper Son? How do you know? So I have recycled these questions for you. The author's purpose for writing The Path to Paper Son and Louis Sher Kim, Paper Son was. So I'm giving you a little bit of a hint that I feel like we can say that these two have the same purpose. I know this because, so you can't leave out that part because there's two parts to that question. The second question says, how do you know? So don't forget to answer, how do you know? That's your text evidence. Okay? So this is one of the assignments that you have this week that you can't complete until you finish reading the paired selection. Okay? If you have any questions about author's purpose, remember we're talking about persuade, inform, and entertain. If you have any questions, make sure that you are asking them so we can get our assignment finished by the end of the week. Okay? Talk to you soon.